Welcome to the Listening Platform, where we slow down, reflect, and ease into meaningful conversation with ourselves. I am Guru Subramanian Swaminathan, a coach for life. In this space, we are embarking on a journey to listen deeply to the stories of ordinary people living extraordinary moments. Because I strongly believe that moments become memories with just a dose of intention. So take a deep breath, lean in, let's listen now. Today we are joined by Suchindra Kanakanapalya, a strategic advisor, business mentor, and a leadership coach who has helped transform leaders and businesses across 17 countries. With the experience spanning top firms like KPMG, Deloitte, and TCS, Suchindra brings deep insight into the business agility, leadership, and impact. He is a 13x serial investor and has coached over 1,500 professionals and guided hundreds of hikers and runners, proving that growth isn't just professional, it's personal. Let's dive into his story, one of intention, listening, and learning. Namaste. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Listening Platform channel. As we published earlier, we are going to meet our first guest, Suchindra. Welcome, Suchindra, to the podcast. There's a lot of things people wanted to ask you for this particular podcast, but what I thought is probably we will stick to a one particular topic about returning to India.
Yep.
Okay. Before we get into the details, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi everyone. My name is Suchindra Kanakanapalya. Here in Australia, at least, I go by the name Coach Suchindra for the various initiatives I've been part of. I've been in the corporate world for the last 18 years, predominantly working in the consulting space, both from the productivity, management, strategy, and large implementation programs. In the last few years, I've been focusing a lot on angel investment startup. But apart from that, I really enjoy career coaching, running coaching, hiking, and just engaging with community. A big believer of purpose-led groups. I strongly believe there's a lot of knowledge that once shared can improve communities to be better and achieve their potential.
Thank you, Suchindra. So nice of you. We get back to the topic in terms of returning. So when you say return, it's like Suchindra has been here for the last 8 years, and as a family, they have called it home and going back to India. So in terms of that, what does returning home mean to you?
Returning home is India, and in India it is Bangalore.
Yeah.
So having the best dosas and going for a run in Cubbon Park and Lal Bagh is pretty much home. But we're all people who have aspirations. We go and settle in different countries. We pretty much make any place our home. Okay. I remember as an NCC cadet, we used to camp in new places and then make a clearing, pitch a tent. That was our home for 14 days or 10 days that we were there. And we create our own comforts, adapt to the environment, and really look at what do we learn from each other, and then meet people from different battalions and states, which is pretty much what we do today, right? I mean, you go to a new organization, you're meeting new people, you go to a new country, you're understanding the culture, you're following the laws. I feel at this stage I've learned a lot from various countries, but I want to go back from an outside-in perspective. To India. So going back home is trying to be very rich in experience and want to share with more people and empower them.
Okay, so it is like taking all the knowledge and then going back to your hometown of Bangalore.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Very nice. In terms of specific of staying here in Australia for the last 8 years, do you think you have learned anything exceptional in Australia?
Australia has been, I came to Australia with probably very little aspirations.
Okay.
I had a few very selfish motives of coming to a very sportive country.
Okay.
As much as I know so much about the world and I keep learning, I knew very little, and I quickly realized I knew very little when I came to Australia.
Okay.
The nature, the access to wilderness, the people, the work culture, which was deceiving when you look at India, the cricket field and what Australian cricket does.
Yes.
But the world actually out there was, as I say, it's more assertive than what it's aggressive, what you see on the cricket field that Indian cricket fans perceive it to be. So it's been a fantastic experience. So we are going back, as I call it, empty bucket.
Okay.
We have more than fulfilled one bucket list of things to do, but we have done multiple more buckets.
Okay.
So we are definitely going back with empty bucket. And there's an interesting book called Die Empty.
Die Empty. Okay.
By Todd Henry.
Okay.
And that was a book that was suggested by one of my mentors back in Bangalore. And it was about entrepreneurship. He actually suggested me that book because it's a lot about entrepreneurship, and he said you would really enjoy.
Okay.
But in my own autonomy-driven, purpose-led, and trying to master something, I think I've kind of lived up to that book.
Okay. Yeah. Very, very nice to hear specifically on the empty bucket.
Yes.
We all have bucket list, and bucket never ends. Basically, the list never ends.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, we have got a very good question from one of the members of your WhatsApp group. They want to know about what are the moments or habits you know you will miss most from your life here.
My wife and I were just discussing just a few days ago that within 30 minutes to about an hour, we had more than 100 hiking trail opportunities.
Okay.
The opportunity to have a purpose-led group and just create an initiative and just pick up the car and go trail and just be amongst the nature where you're up, and it's so clean and pristine, untouched by human intervention apart from the trails that you walk and the trail runners. That's something that I'll really miss.
Okay.
And also there's a lot about culture, and hopefully we'll dwell a little bit into it, but everybody you pass by in the trail, they would never know you, but just that "are you okay" is a very common phrase. I remember an ultra marathon recently, and they're running 100 milers, and I was just doing a 50 kilometer, and it's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "You're doing much more than me, and you're checking on me." So that culture to kind of check on each other,
okay,
is something that I've learned and imbibed in some of the groups and the initiatives that I've done, and I will continue to do that. But that is something that I think in India we miss, checking on each other.
Okay.
Because we are always in a rush. I want to kind of be an brand ambassador for that mental well-being when I go back.
Awesome.
Yep.
I mean, that's important to know about that. Are you okay?
Yep.
We keep hearing almost on a daily basis, basically, right?
Correct.
One of the best learning I have had was in India, in HSBC actually. The culture of HSBC is basically, okay, you have to ask, "Are you okay?" with a comma, today.
Yep. Yeah.
For every meeting, you have to ask this.
Right.
Are you okay today?
Yeah.
If you're not comfortable, it's okay for you not to attend the meeting. It's okay for you to take some rest. It's okay for you to move out of the office, etc. So that's like so powerful.
Wonderful. Yeah. As an organization and culture, that was fantastic. I had a leader who would check, every time we were working on a very complex program, and 3 times she would come by, and she would 3 or 4 times in a day. She's like, "Are you okay?" Then I said, "Katie, you just asked me this question about 2 hours ago." It's like a lot could happen in 2 hours, Suchindra.
That's right.
So it was really nice. I mean, and it's a very default setting, and I think it's like a switch. Once you switch on, that's the way you operate. You actually kind of kill the demons and uncertainty in a lot of people around you, and it's almost like frictionless. And after that, it's an environment that you really enjoy thriving on.
Amazing thoughts. Thanks for sharing that. Now, 8 years, 2,500 days approximately.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moments, and moments are converted to memories basically.
Yeah.
Is there any specific moment you want to share which has shaped your thinking of how you think now?
Yeah. There's one specific event. This was, I think, 2018, City to Surf.
Okay.
I think I had done about 3 or 4 running batches by that time. And there was a very thriving running group, and people who came together, and it was just platonic growth. And I created the running coaching group, Parameter Runners, purely out of the selfish intention to have running for friends. Because running was just such a fulfilling, and I've never met a person who's into long distance running but would cheat or would have his life in disarray.
Okay.
But after the event, and I think about 22-25 runners finished the run, and just everybody just randomly, because I mean they were all coaches, and we just caught up. Let's catch up for a photo. And we were all just to share how you're doing. I was like trying to tell them how to recover, what precautions to take in, and just randomly just lifted me up in the air. And I clicked a pitch. I've never felt so different.
Okay.
I know. Coming from South India, a lot of movie idols are made to feel like that, and they're literally carried around. But there was nothing selfish that I was expecting, or there was no financial benefit or anything of sort. It was just pure love.
Okay.
And I didn't know how to react at the moment. It was just like a fraction of a second. And all of them have gone on to do so many things in life here in Australia. And some of them have done triathlon and other events and ran the first marathon, half marathon. But that moment, I think if there's a last moment when I have my last breath, probably that is one I will definitely relish among many of the other things. I believe you kind of recollect about 100 moments in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, probably that's going to be up there too.
And it's going to be a flash of a second, right?
Yeah, I know.
And did that lead to Parameter runners?
No, Parameter runners existed before that.
Okay.
As a group, we were there, but that was also a time when somebody suggested that I need to register this as a company and run it officially, which I had done by that time.
Okay.
Yeah, and I continue to retain that, and I'm planning to do this a little more online, personalized coaching going forward while I'm in India. Yeah, let's see how it turns out. I'm not sure.
Amazing.
How it will shape. Yeah.
So while we are at this topic, Suchindra is a coach for running, and he has a company called as Parameter Runners.
Yes.
You can find out in the Instagram Parameter Runners. And probably I think you have completed 19 batches, 250 people?
20 batches, 225 runners.
Okay.
Some of them are like ultra marathoners. So I mean, I've become their followers now. But it's very inspiring group, and always helpful. There's not a question that goes by that they wouldn't have an answer.
Yeah. All right. In terms of about India, okay. We all know about India, born and brought up there. We have a wider view about what's happening in India.
Yep.
But did staying in Australia teach anything about India?
It did, but I was slightly in an advantage situation to look at it differently, Guru.
Yeah.
Because just after my engineering, my first flight in my life, I flew to Chicago to do my master's. Very gullible, and I've spoken quite a bit about it in terms of how gullible I was and how I went into clinical depression, which in hindsight I realized. But I had a view of how India is perceived externally, and I didn't know what to do out of it. People reacting downright disdain in terms of some of the cleanliness and corruption and all of that. And I just moved first time, and I knew, I mean, I was okay within India. I mean, I knew there was a system, there was irregularities around it. But when I came back, I saw people who had already settled well and rest of the world have a different perspective and continue to thrive. Although they grew up there, their parenting, their education, the formative years were there. That's what made them to be global leaders today. But they really continue to kind of speak pretty badly about India. Not that they were part of the solution, but it was easy to sit back on a chair really far away and not having any repercussions of whatever you say. So it was deep inside me, and I just mentioned this recently to another group because I've never thought about it in a conscious mind, but in a subconscious mind. I wanted to go really do well outside India again. It was also from the fact that I wanted to go back and stay for a few years outside India with my girlfriend, who's now my wife.
Okay.
And we came here, but I wanted to, I mean, there was not a single day that I've thought about being mediocre or simple. I always wanted to do something different, quite memorable, and then go back to India as like, I've lived my life, thrived and performed at my highest. And I go back to India as like, there's nothing wrong in India. If anything, you need to be part of the solution.
Okay.
So then that's my larger, deeper purpose.
Okay. Yeah. In terms of going back to India, so is that something you had in mind when you came to Australia itself, or how does this thought process started off going back to India? Would you like to elaborate on that?
We, as a family and with wife and I, we thought about wanting to, as I
Okay.
said, stay outside India for a few years. But we never intended to stay longer.
Okay.
I was the only kid to my parents.
Okay.
So I wanted to go back and spend some time before they're too old and nobody to take care and things like that. Although I think they're within the means to handle. But being the only kid, I think it's just a cultural thing. You just want to ensure that you're there and you're not providing services with people around. So I'm completely naked in terms of the thought process that anything happen at old age, I'm just there to do. I mean, I want to physically be there. I don't want to be looking at a video at my parents. So that is definitely one of that. So we wanted to come and experience, really enjoy, travel a bit. I think my wife and I connected very well on travel.
Okay.
Which we have kind of fully lived up to that aspiration, and also kids have become very comfortable travelers now. So yeah, it was a 5-year project, which ended up being 8 years. But yeah, never too late.
Absolutely,
just
certainly
in time,
not
just
late.
in time.
Yeah, I think I certainly respect your decision of going back. Plus, the reason you're telling in terms of taking care of parents and things like that.
Yep.
But from our own groups, and there's a lot of questions coming around in terms of, is there anything else you need to consider, or have you considered?
Yep.
When you say that you're going back to India, so for example, are you shifting jobs, or is there anything financially you have to take care of? Is there anything socially you have to take care? Any tips for persons who want to at least think about, should I live in Australia or should I go back to India? Is there anything you can share? Some tips?
That's a very broad question.
Yeah.
But let me see if I can provide some structure in a very simple manner.
Okay.
It's one is a financial bucket. So if you look at broad buckets in terms of what you look at it from a financial perspective, which is all about are we retiring with the financial safety, both for family and kids and extended family and all of that. Another one is from a career standpoint, I think it's very scary for a lot of people. One of the key aspects that people think about is they come to Australia and the technological advancement is not so great. If they go back, their peer group is already ahead. And then you have to pay for fees, which is Medicare and Centrelink, you're covered here. So then that's kind of a disparity. And a lot of people come back to Australia, especially because of the way the system Australia is, the Medicare, Centrelink, and the system that it supports. So that is one area. Another area is purely from a kids education standpoint. I've met a lot of people. Since I meet a lot of people, it's a cumulative knowledge that I'm a consequence of that knowledge. There are a few people who say that the education curriculum and the rigor here is not so competitive enough to be the world beater, and the exposure that they get, and they want to go back to India to give their kids that experience. Another one is obviously as a family and as a couple, if you are, and the considerations that is associated with it. The fifth bucket is it's about your comfort of being back in India if you need to. A lot of people don't go back because they don't have any friends there. They don't have any networks and people. They moved on because they're just not that kind of a people to stay in touch. And then it's like even one of the conversations in our household is, how do we go back and connect with our friends? I mean, they have formed their own core group. They're hanging out together. Their choices are different or probably the same. We don't know. But last year we went to India for a month just to experience. We stayed with a few friends at home. We understood what's the quick commerce and how much it impacted. We stayed overnight. We caught up with a lot of friends. And I think it's India. I mean, they just welcomed us with open arms and made us feel like we never left. And we've not even gone into that depths because we never traveled to India as much. But my wife and I felt that there's no hindrance. It's probably the media and social media and the connect. Digital media, as much as it brings you together, it makes you feel a lot of doubt. So that is an aspect. So if you address each of this financially, you should invest in a place where you know you have the best period of time for that financial to grow. So if you're having a dual country and the double taxation and repatriation, that can be a little slightly challenging. So you need to think through that. So probably consult a certified financial advisor. That is good. Second one is in terms of career. I have a few areas that I've noticed that those choices of skills and expertise can actually be transferable. So somebody who's evaluating this needs to consider that a little more deeply. So being in management space, product management, especially in specific interests, industries that is quite advanced enough, but in India also you can kind of correlate to that.
Yeah.
And
it's a developing industry basically.
Correct. And the size of the team, and there it's India, it's much larger. You're more a people manager, you're more an end-to-end delivery person here, those aspects. From a kid standpoint, I think teenage years, I mean, again, it's a boy and a girl and different times that they evolve. That can also be slightly challenging. So that is one area that they can definitely consider. From a couple standpoint, health is also a very important aspect. I'm a big proponent of discussing openly about women's health, especially because as an Indians anywhere in the world, as a culture, we kind of brush it under the mat in terms of what their cycles of life really evolves. Around premenopause and menopause is a time having a transition can be quite challenging, especially in women, and especially if you've got some equations back in India that you're not so confident about. It can be very daunting, and you would think it's supposed to kind of work in a linear manner. It doesn't. It looks like you have a lot of time, but when you look at all these parameters, there is very small window of opportunity, and it's not just about moving to another country. It's about anything. Once you go down to the basic essentials and you look at the parameters that it plays in, you'll realize none of that is linear. They're so disconnected, and then you'll see that there's a blip of 6 months or a 3-month period that you can actually make a career change, or you can decide what career you need to do, or you want to get married if you're early in your life, and those kind of things. And that's an opportunity that you need to really dwell in. But it takes time for somebody to step back and just look at where to play and what's happening.
Take a big picture view, and
big picture view, that kind of helps. But if you're just rushing through life in moments, it's very difficult, because you don't know what's going to hit you, and if it hits you really hard, it can break apart the entire family. So you just want to be careful. Yeah.
I mean, it's like so many points to consider. I have noted few. I think we should be able to go through it in detail. Thank you so much for answering that.
Yep.
I think there's one more question one of the team member have asked, or one of our group member have asked, is basically, right, what is it you are most hopeful about going back to India, in India basically, and what does make you anxious of going back to India?
I'm very hopeful about what I can provide to the business world and people and aspirations in India. I feel India as a country is a land of seekers. There's a lot of people seeking information, but there are not enough people who are providing them with proper directions. Just purely on the unit economics and large scale size of business, and anything you start, you're talking about millions of people adopting to things. Somewhere down the line, personalization is really diluted. So it's very templatized in terms of, you want to go to an education, everybody goes to an engineering, then with subject, then it's computer science as a specialization, or you want to buy an insurance, there's one insurance, you go in and just because somebody bought it, you bought it. But you are
word of mouth
and those kind of things. There's so much reliance on word of mouth, but then when it's too late for you to realize that it's too late, you said, that's how life is, and you move on. So you don't get enough time to deliberate, kind of assess. And I think I'm very hopeful of being a part where I could actually slow down, pause, and help people to be better in terms of through coaching or my investments or mentoring to startups and businesses. And that's something that I'm very hopeful of. And there's plenty of options, believe me. There are options galore. Just being there and having an open shoulder to say, how can I help you, and those kind of things. And people are, I need this. And as long as you have that mindset of soldier mindset, roll up your sleeves, they're really good. But if you go there thinking that, I was a director in this organization and I'm supposed to get opportunities and those kind of things, I personally believe India will put you in your place very quickly.
I'm sure, I think many people are going to take help from you, and if you're right, as you rightly say, you're open to help, and you're going to get surely mobbed very quickly, like, can you help? Correct. So is there any structure you are thinking in your mind? You're going to establish anything on that front?
So currently I have a few things. One is I have 3 funds, angel funds, that I'm going to be spending some time. But since the purpose is clear and the team is really nice, I don't think so I need a lot of time.
Okay.
There might be one or two companies which is falling down the wayside that I might need a little bit of an effort.
Okay.
But apart from that, I'm planning a couple of programs and training programs and initiatives. I might probably host a catch up or an offsite for founders and investors to come and catch up. I want to do something for mid-tier leadership aspirants.
Okay.
Because that is a space a lot of people have skills, but they do not know how leadership really necessarily works. They do things right.
Okay.
But they don't know what is the right thing to do. I think you would appreciate that part.
Understand.
But that part about how leaders think differently is something that's missing, and I probably want to have a couple of product or large classroom training product of sorts, and then a little more personalized for somebody who spins out of that and really aspiring for that. I will definitely not be doing running coaching though.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure that also people certainly want, right? I think the famous Kaban Park is there in Bangalore.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're going to get a group there.
But Bangalore, I'm nobody. Every road has got people with world majors and multiple certifications. So that's definitely a red ocean.
Okay.
So because I wouldn't have anything very disruptive to offer, although I can get up in a sleep and really understand what it is. But there are people very nuanced, and this one, what I will probably do is I want to improve myself, and I want to do very target. I want to do all the world majors and those kind of things. So that is what I'll do. But yeah, just the training programs.
Okay.
I would probably want to engage at a college level and a final year engineering and management students, and then provide them readiness to corporate world.
Okay.
Tie up with a few universities or things like that. But there's still I've made a huge list. I think we need a separate podcast for that.
Great thoughts. I'm sure you're going to come up with some structure and tell everybody this is how it is going to be.
Sure.
This is a bit of a different question actually. So when you're going to take a flight back home, probably next 20 days actually.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts replaying in your mind? What could be that?
There's a lot of emotions in Australia, a lot of good connections, a lot of families. Even in the last 2 or 3 months while we're making the move, people have just welcomed us, and they're like, there are some people who have doubted, oh, you would come back, I know this wouldn't work out, and how can you leave the comforts of Australia and go back to the complexities of India? But there's a lot of families who have been so supportive. So I'm definitely be flying and thinking about there is home away from India.
Okay.
Which currently I feel is a lot more welcoming than India is. But I'm not alien to Australia anymore. So I somehow feel I'm one of the Aboriginal person I'm obviously traveling and understanding. And working with different industries and different ethnicities and people, and going to all the museums and all of that, I feel very connected to the land here.
Okay.
And it's I'm not a very religious person, but I think it's very spiritual. And I realized that when I went around the Uluru, supposedly that's a traditional thing to go around Uluru. Correct. Which is very similar to Manasa Sarovar and Mount Kailash.
Okay.
Or Parikrama. And one of the guys I was coaching to go to Mount Kailash, and he told me what you did around Uluru is actually has the same purpose.
You did a running around the Uluru, right?
Yeah. And he said it's the same purpose that the tribe around Uluru follow, which is a similar principles of Mount Kailash of increasing the age of the universe.
Okay.
And I didn't know that.
Amazing.
And right in the center of Australia, right? So yeah, I'm an Australian too in a way, although I'm not a citizen here. But yeah, I could say I'm an Indian Australian. Indian more so, but Australian definitely.
That's right. Now coming to the land, right? So have you traveled across Australia, or have you visited few places within Australia in the last 8 years? To summarize that. As a family, we've been so obsessed about traveling. So we have traveled to every state and territory in the mainland. Wow.
So from probably Western Australia and Tasmania is the only 2 states that we have traveled once.
Okay.
But Jervis Bay, Victoria, ACT, Queensland, Northern Territory, South Australia also, we have traveled multiple times. and North and South Island. So the forgotten islands of New Zealand and Australia I would go back and I said that map is I don't know if you know, very popularly world maps miss New Zealand. They miss adding New Zealand.
Okay.
So I would go back and I said, no, that's a very important part of the universe.
North and South.
Yeah, just because it's on the corner on the bottom right doesn't mean you can forget about it. There are people, and I've lived with them, I've shook hands with them.
but interesting, right? Yeah. There is a map shop near Baucom Hills.
Yep.
Okay. So if you go to that map shop, they have a different view of how the world looks like. Because typically we have grown up on the flat map,
correct,
which is like United States on the right,
yes,
on the left,
yeah,
Australia on the right,
correct,
with Africa, Europe,
yes,
and India, yes, in the middle, basically, right?
Correct.
But this map is completely different, with Australia and New Zealand in the center, and it's a complete reverse, basically.
Wow, wonderful. Wonderful. So such beautiful, different perspectives. I've seen a couple of maps like that, especially looking at the Earth upside down and having probably Asia in the center and differently. And obviously GMT became a point of reference to put at the center. But we don't see that because we're not such visual creatures. We don't
correct,
fly.
The moment you see it, gives a complete different perspective.
Correct. I think the only industry or the set of people who look at it very differently are obviously the astronauts who are traveling in the international space stations.
Correct.
Or probably a flight, because they're the pilots who are looking at the curvature of the planet, and they don't necessily go through the linear.
No, not the straight line, right?
Correct. They look at it differently, but otherwise we are all very visual learners, right? We believe what we see.
Absolutely. I have one last question, Suchindra. This is for probably like comparing all the members in your WhatsApp groups, basically.
Yep.
Most of them have called Australia as home, so basically they have become PRs and then to citizens, and friends who are in Australia for more than probably 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, basically, right?
I know our uncle who's here since 74.
74, okay. Yeah. So that's great. So a lot of people who are in Australia. Now, is there any specific advice or the guide you have for the people who are in Australia or continue to be in Australia?
Yep.
So is there anything you can provide them as tips, guide, advice?
Yeah. Australia as a nation is still very small and evolving.
Okay.
If you consider US or UK or Europe, or some parts of Europe or Singapore or UAE, and India is really longest living civilization, right? But as Indians going outside the rest of the country, Australia is still first generational migrants here, even if you're a citizen here. And what I've noticed is their kids, the early movement here, because the non-whites were allowed to move into Australia around after 1973-74.
Okay.
Their kids are now coming to a marriageable age.
Okay.
And it's got its own considerations about what is the opportunities here and how are you really evolving and growing your family. But it's still a very early stage. There's a lot in terms of learning about Australia and sharing our culture here, adapting to that we still have a very deep, strong purpose. There are a lot of associations doing very good job, but a majority of the people are just a consequence and receiving these benefits of events and cultural events and music and art and sport and those kind of things. But I think as the generation right now and our kids who are here now and who continue to stay here, we have a lot to be out there and really engage.
Okay.
We shouldn't be just focused about my education, my career, my life, my salary, my home, and those kind of things. I think it's important to connect more, evolve more. Otherwise, we have a sizable population here. We have about, in Indians origin, are about 780,000 people, still not in the top 10 Indians in any nation across the world yet. But I think Australia is going through an evolution where we need to be out there more and help in the community and be out there.
Okay.
And it's only going to help our kids and the subsequent generation much more, because they will look at us in a very comfortable light. They know they mean trust, they mean good culture, they mean respect.
Okay.
And the opportunities will come up when you put your honest effort. So we can't just sit back and just say it's just my life and this is what I'm going to live. We still learn a lot in Australia.
Okay. So put yourself out there,
Yeah.
basically. I think it's a great piece of advice at this point in time,
Correct.
because typically from July, all the festivals and
Correct.
all the events starts here in
Yes.
Australia. Typically goes up to Christmas. So
Correct.
it's the right piece of advice for everyone to take.
Correct. So there was one instance where we did the teenager program, Mebuso, a fundraiser program, and there was one gentleman that I know pretty well, and he came on a hike, and as a parent, he just joined in, and he's been here in 18 years.
Okay.
And he grew up in Shimoga in Karnataka, which is known to be one of the most biodiverse regions, the Western Ghat regions in the world, in fact. Very rare species of, because I'm in wildlife, I'm a little aware, very rare species of birds and reptiles and frogs and all of that. And he loves nature, and he aspires to go back and be part of that nature. And he had never hiked in Australia in the 18 years he'd been here.
Okay.
He said, Suchindra, this is the first time I've hiked. It's so beautiful. It reminded me of my childhood. Then I said, what are you, just the beginning of the podcast, we said every 30 minutes to 1 hour, there are hundreds of options and they're so beautiful. And I remember in some of the hikes, there are people as like, oh, this is a nice insect, or this is a nice caterpillar. And they're clicking picture because it's so eye-opening.
Probably the first time they are seeing all these things.
Correct.
Actually.
And he's been here for 18 years and he's never experienced nature. And I was like, what are you saying? I'm like, you must be blessed to be in, especially in a place like Sydney.
It's very close to all the trails.
Actually. Correct. And it's Australia's got the highest number of national parks.
Okay.
And you just need to ensure that obviously you need to take safety, and you need to ensure there is network. All Trails is a great app to know what route and you're not lost, because we've heard a lot of stories of people getting lost and untoward things happening. But otherwise, if you're in a group and you're guided by the right people, I think it's a beautiful place. Okay. Both in the nature and also as a community and people. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Suchindra. Yeah. Thanks for all your time.
Yeah.
Great speaking with you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for this opportunity. I know this came out of one of the groups and the conversation, but I think you asked some questions that probably have not thought about it very deeply in a conscious mind. But it also, my wife looked at the questions. She's like, "Wow, you're going to answer all of this." Because it gives a lot of deep meaning to us as couple, as a family, because we think through some of these aspects. But it only enriches our life because it gives an opportunity. But hopefully there are some information that people who are watching will get to take away, and most of you staying here in Australia and enjoying, and some people having considerations of India. But if you have anything that you want to reach out, you can reach out to Guru or me, and you would know where to reach us out. Happy to help. I love talking. If you don't give me any food or money or anything and tell me to talk, I would do all day long. The only thing that I fall sick in my life is my throat, because I speak too much, and winter actually pushes you a little bit. But otherwise, there is nothing, at least touch wood, nothing's that happened. But I love talking to people. I love helping and in any means.
Got it.
So thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you everyone for watching this. Keep tuning. We'll come back with more episodes. Thank you.